Hello, welcome to Collector Creations. In this video we're talking about Sydney Sweeney. I like to do these videos where I look at a actor's filmography, a good selection from 6 to 8 to 10 films of theirs, and kind of compare their, performances to kind of get an evaluation of how well of an actor they actually appear to be. And Sydney Sweeney's been bubbling on the surface for a while, mostly because she's gotten, become huge in terms of, notoriety, fame over the past couple of years, especially since Euphoria, but most notably as of the start of, 2024, late 2023 with Anyone But You. And it's very much boomed since then. And now she's, a interesting actress, to put it lightly. She's a good model. She's a very photogenic person. A lot of people like her for her looks. It's a simple nature. She has assets to herself that obviously a lot of people like. I'm going for the obvious subtle touch there, because that's not what I want to look at, but it will be something I have to kind of note. It's not like I just want to watch it because, hey, she's got blonde hair and a sizable figure. I want to watch her films. It's like, no, I just wanted to actually kind of get an idea as to, do I think she's a decent actor for the roles that she's been given. Now, I watched a selection of films. I didn't rewatch Anyone But You, but I mean, I don't feel like I need to. It was actually on Foxtel the other week. My parents were watching it. I'm just like, man, she's something, isn't she? So we have Reality, the 2023 kind of docudrama. It's based on real life, whatever. I won't dive too much into each film, into what their plot is as a premise, but I will talk about her notability in them. So we've got Reality, we have Nocturne, there's The Wrong Daughter. It's a Lifetime film. Yeah, then we've got Madam Web, classic, everyone loves Madam Web, had to do Madam Web. Most of these were on Amazon Prime, so it made it really easy to watch them. Reality was on Binge, so that's fun. There's also The Voyeurs, and Anyone But You, and Immaculate. Now, Immaculate is the one that I think, for me personally, is the biggest disappointment for her involvement, because I actually bought the Blu-ray. I was very excited to watch it. My partner and I missed the screening of it when we went to see it, but it so happened that, it came out on Blu-ray a couple of weeks later, so I bought the Blu-ray, whatever. But I saw The First Omen a couple of days after we were meant to watch Immaculate. And then a lot of people were saying, hey, The First Omen and Immaculate's basically the same movie. And after watching Immaculate, I'm like, yeah, it's really basically the same movie. It's insane. But unfortunately for me, and I mean, I feel like I still would have thought this way if I had have watched Immaculate first, Immaculate is the lesser of the two films, where I praise, First Omen to high hell because it is such an amazing film. I don't like Immaculate that much. I didn't think very highly of it. Me and my partner still both watched it, and we were both like, we were 20 minutes in, but by the time we were like, yeah, we can start talking during this movie. We're in our own living room, whatever, watching the film, and we're just discussing elements of the plot and her performance and whatever, and what exactly we're expecting out of this film. And it became a film that was a passion project for her. I did the research. I even watched the behind-the-scenes featurettes with her doing her interviews and how she discovered the film script in 2014 and she really wanted to make it and no one did, and she kept looking back on it for years, and then when she finally had producing credits, which I think very smart on her part as an actor to also be a producer, because it gets you a lot of power in Hollywood. Zendaya's doing the same thing. A lot of actors and actresses especially, though I usually term them as the same thing, they're doing a smart thing of actually becoming producers as well, so they're getting their own influence, unless it becomes a Ryan Reynolds effect, which is just really annoying, but that's its own thing. But for her, for now, it's she's getting projects off the ground that she wants to do, and she's doing things in order to make sure that certain projects can happen. Cough, cough, Madam Web was an excuse to get Barbarella off the ground. But either way, in terms of Immaculate, this was the passion project. This was the thing she's been wanting to do for, by that stage, it was maybe 8 or 9 years, because they did it in 2023, came out 2024. And, yeah, I don't know if this script had any revisions, if they actually tried to fix it or change it outside of, we're changing from school to nunnery, because, hey, wouldn't it be cool if Sydney Sweeney was a nun? That was the director's idea, which is hilarious to me because the script already existed by that stage. And that's the one that Sydney was passionate about. And then the director, who she was friends with, who she hired, was like, what if we make you a nun? Yeah, and it becomes a story about what you'd think is the Antichrist, again, First Omen, but becomes more or less a interesting tale about abortion and abortion rights, but not really. But I don't know, it's a weird thing. Every single message the film tries to have, whether it be a certain horror direction or a narrative direction or a character direction, kind of just goes and then stops immediately and moves on to the next thing. So even its whole argument about abortion becomes just something that literally gets slammed with a rock, and that's the end of discussion, which I think is probably the most noteworthy thing. Her performance in the film is maybe one of her better ones. I don't think she's great in many of the films that I've seen her in, and that does include the Lifetime film, but that just kind of felt like an amusing thing because it was 90 minutes on an Amazon, so that was kind of funny. But I don't know, it's one of those things where most of the times I've seen her in a film, she has this effect where she will start acting in the scene, and halfway throughout that scene, or halfway throughout that line of dialogue, will just stop acting. And it's weird. She does it in Anyone But You, and it's relentless. And I don't understand how the hell anyone became a huge fan of hers because of that film. I'm like, I don't get it. Like Glenn Powell, I get it. Sydney Sweeney, I don't get it. I don't think she's a good actor. And yeah, the only film I think she actually excels in is Reality. That one was really well done. It benefits from the fact that it's based on a real script of real conversations that happened, and its message and everything is very interesting, and it's, again, one of those, it's a great political thriller that is not the kind of film you expect it to be, and then when you're watching it, you're like, man, this is interesting. It builds and gets more thrilling, gets more tense. Her performance changes nicely throughout to show the innocence of her character, then the cunning of her character. She's surprisingly really good in the role. It's the only role of hers I'd be like, that's an actress right there. That's someone who, holy shit, has some capability. But I was really hoping that she wouldn't be the kind of person who is only good in the role if the script is good or the directing is good. Because that film has a really interesting script, but really solid directing. And, you think, oh, it's based on real life, whatever, it's not that great. But, of course, you still have to get everyone to convincingly portray the characters who are based on real people. Same as a biopic, you still need good directorial vision to actually give it the flair it needs. And it also gives it some extra visual stuff. They do some interesting camera work, some editing tricks to, bleep out censored stuff. And it adds to this dramatic layer. But she is terrific in Reality. For 88 minutes, it's a solid performance. Was it 88 minutes? 82 minutes? It's a solid-ass performance. I think it's an hour and 22-minute film, yeah. It's a really solid performance. But again, back to Immaculate, that's the one where I was really hoping that it would, at least her performance would be something noteworthy, especially given that this was the passion project. But, I don't know, her performance gets lost in the mess that is the rest of the movie. It's not very scary, for one thing, which it doesn't really matter if it scares me. If it has a good, convincing element, whether it be humorously scary or scary but so bad it's funny, humorously scary could be like, oh, it's scary, but it's actually funny because of how scary it is. That's how I feel about a lot of slasher films. I don't laugh at them because I think they're stupid. I laugh at them because it's just funny. If that makes sense. But she doesn't have that angle in Immaculate. Does she need that angle in Immaculate? I don't know. That movie doesn't have an angle. It keeps doing different things, and it can't focus itself. It's very bizarre of a film to watch. And again, a disappointment, especially because I went out of my way to buy the Blu-ray. I think it was on sale. But still, it doesn't matter. What else do we have to jump away from the Passion Project, which I feel like is the best one to jump back to? Nocturne is one where she is basically trying to play Miles Teller's character from Whiplash. But it's also kind of... How do I even describe it? She's a prodigy, twin prodigy, when it comes to being a pianist at a music school and whatever. And she picks up a book that makes her, I don't know, convinced that certain things are going to happen, and she goes a bit crazy. It's It's fine. This is like a middle-of-the-road film for her, where the film itself is pretty subpar. It's fine, but her performance is fine. Like, she's not unconvincing in the role, but also I don't believe at any minute of the day that she would be able to play the piano very well. They obviously have to shoot it in a way that makes it seem like it's her, but I don't believe it. Whether it was her or the keys or not, you know, it's not hard to pretend to play piano or learn, it's like learning a line of dialogue in a different language and then just be sounding fluent in that line of dialogue, but it's just the same for playing piano. So I don't think she's great in it, but I don't think she's bad in it. You know, she's not bad, but it's, again, a very forgettable film in a way. It's the kind of film that uses its ending to be very, it's like a metaphor, but also it's not, and also it's kind of stupid. So it's kind of stupid. The Wrong Daughter, we'll get back to that one. That's a crazy one all to its own. Madam Web, let's talk about Madam Web. This movie is bad. Pretty obvious. Her performance, forgettable. The thing is, she's not bad in it, and again, they're trying to go for that cliche of, she's the gorgeous blonde who wears glasses cliche, that you expect her to take the glasses off, suddenly she looks stunning and whatever, and she's actually really smart. But they don't do anything of her character. That's the problem with the film. There's a lot of problems with the film, but the main problem with the film is that you want to care about these three girls, and the film doesn't give you a reason to give a shit about them. It's like, here's the reasons they're all connected to Madam Web, but we're not going to give them any interesting character elements outside of they're basically all being abandoned by their families or whatever. She's not a standout character. She is very much the antisocial, nerdy type, but again, doesn't have enough screen time to actually have a character arc. She's just like that for the whole film. She never comes out of her shell. You could say it's the dancing scene on the table, but trust me, it isn't. And yeah, it's just, she just never changes throughout the film. None of them do. None of the girls become heroes or anything. You want them to have their origin stories as well. Maybe they all get bitten by spiders or some bullshit, because this is a fucking Spider-Man film. And none of them become Spider-Women, even though you get future sight bullshit of they will eventually be in a future movie. And I'm like, that is not interesting. That's not compelling. I don't care about something that's going to happen. It's like the same as the villain, being like, I gotta kill these girls so that they can't kill me in 10 to 30 years, I don't know, but eventually maybe they will. It's like, well, what does it matter? Just leave the city. I don't know. You'll be fine. You don't need to live in New York, my guy. Just move on. It's a really stupid movie. But yeah, she's just not memorable in the film at all. She's just there, and that's about it. Most of the all of the promos, showed her in the Spider-Man suit, and that was all that was in the movie. So you see the promos, you see the trailers, you see the gifs of her just as a Spider-Woman, even though I don't know what her name is, which is not a good thing. It's just none of it's important. It's not relevant. It doesn't matter. It's all stupid. It's a bad movie. The Voyeurs is one where she's, again, very heavily present the whole time, except for maybe a 5 to 10 minute period of the film, but that's really at the end. What can I say about this? This is directed by actually written and directed by the guy who directed Immaculate, hence their friendship. This is one that I knew about from, it's a film about people perving on their neighbours who are having sex. It's a rip-off of Rear Window. I get it. I understand. Rip off one of my favourite movies. Go for it. Let's see how you can pull it off. Does it? No. The main 2/3 of the movie is really boring. And, it's just, look, we're looking at these neighbours. We shouldn't be looking at these neighbours. Stop becoming friends with the goddamn neighbours. I don't give a shit. Stop becoming friends with them. It's very on the nose of every single theme. Look, glasses, eyes, looking, visuals. I get it. It's a motif. Woof. By the end of the film, the more interesting part where things become immensely dramatic for an erotic thriller, really, really dramatic for an erotic thriller, it goes cartoonishly overboard. It goes from 0 to 1,000,000 within a couple of minutes. It starts with the more notable scene for a lot of her, I'd say male gaze fans, the part where she gets butt naked and has sex. It's the whole, that's the reason to watch this movie. I mean, sure, I guess, but you could always just look at those clips online. The rest of the movie is not worth it. But also, even that part's not really that worth it. Maybe, I don't know, it depends on if you really get off to that kind of stuff. But hey, you do you. I don't judge. But in terms of the rest of the plot, in terms of her character, is she actually interesting? And again, not particularly. I don't care that much for her character. She does do some bad things, and that's basically illegally spying on people. But then, of course, when the twist comes around, you realize, oh, that's kind of dumb. And then it keeps going. She's, again, fine in the film, but never once do I really care about her. And even her boyfriend in the film, her boyfriend in the film, who's played by Justice Smith, is the same degree of concerning, because apparently he's using his real voice in the film, which is crazy that all the films I've seen in, he's used a different voice, and now he's using his real voice, and it sounds like he's putting on a voice, which is really funny. It's bad, but, you know, it is what it is. And so it's just one of those things of, like, she's not compelling, she's not interesting in the performance. Again, none of it really strikes as an interesting thing. This is the problem of watching these movies, is that it's like, they all blend together and how bland they are. The most recent one I watched was Reality, but that also was the only one I watched that I actually felt like was good as a film, but also good in terms of its performance. It's like, man, that girl's got something. If only she stopped doing thrillers, but then this movie is also a thriller. If only she stopped doing erotic thrillers. Most of these movies are thrillers. Reality is a thriller. Nocturne is a thriller. It's kind of still a horror film, but, you know, Wrong Daughter is a thriller. Madam Web is just stupid. Voyeurs is a thriller. Anyone But You is apparently a romantic comedy. Beats me. And Immaculate is a horror. So she's mostly in that one degree of, outside of the outliers of the superhero film and Anyone But You, everything else is horror thriller territory. Yet she's never had a final girl presence, which is interesting. But again, because they're all mostly thrillers. But no, again, The Voyeurs is just also, you can give it a miss. She's in the film for the majority of the runtime, which is good. But again, there was no scene in it that made me interested in her. And that's saying a lot, because The Wrong Daughter, that had one really, really good scene in it. And this is a film I gave half a star, because it's just a shitty Lifetime movie that starts with her as an edgy teen at a foster home before running away and then pretending to be her friend, so she can move in with the parents of that friend who are now trying to find her again to adopt her. And she's like, oh, I'm gonna, like, mess up their lives for some reason. She finally gets a happy home of people who care about her, even though she's lying about who she is. And she's immensely jealous a lot of the time, manipulates people and lies a lot, allegedly has some kind of schizophrenia or something that she has to take pills for. It's kind of a mix of, oh, she's got mental problems and it makes her irrationally angry. I'm like, she's an 18-year-old girl. I think that's just comes with the territory. But no, now she's willing to kill people, and actually does. This is her slasher film. This is the one where she kills people. It's bizarre. And her performance is very, very mixed. She's not good as the edgy teen. She's okay as the, I'm a happy, pretty girl daughter. She's a bit better when she's trying to be manipulative, like as a character, and portraying that character. Her best part is when she's the most manipulative to one guy for basically no reason, because she kills him right after it. She's trying to convince a guy that she's just lost and she's just hopeless, and she actually just really loves her parents, and she just doesn't know why she acts out and everything. And she's like really good in that scene. I was just like, wow, oh my god, Sydney Sweeney can act. And then she just pushes the guy down a flight of stairs and then laughs it off and walks away. And I'm like, okay. So, character-wise and directing, yikes. Also, script writing, yikes. But her performance in that one scene alone is like, man, she can put on the waterworks. She can, like, play that character well. Now, it's probably by this stage in the video that you're probably thinking, Julian, you haven't mentioned The White Lotus. You haven't mentioned Euphoria, the things that she's really known for. And, that's where I'd like to mention, yeah, because I'm not going to talk about them. I haven't seen The White Lotus season 2. Don't plan to. Didn't watch the first season. Doesn't interest me. I did watch Euphoria, the first season. I've seen scenes from the second season. I lost interest after the first season. I'm like, that's alright, and I moved on. She's good in Euphoria. But it's a TV show. It has a different angle, a different precipice. It is a completely different format to just a hour and a half to 2 hour movie, because in that she gets an episode or two dedicated to herself. She gets a character arc. She's an evolving character. She is interesting in the role because she's able to play that kind of character pretty well. I don't know what she's like in the White Lotus, but it's a TV show. She has 7 to 8 episodes, I guess, because TV shows are immensely short for no goddamn reason. She has that amount of time to develop herself, to, show herself as someone. And look, sure, maybe the reason why she became famous from that show was, again, showcasing certain assets of herself. And maybe that's also what boosted her career a lot in a certain angle. Yes, probably. But I do think there is credit where credit is due. She's not a bad actor within those 2 seasons of the show. Within the episodes I've seen, she is good in the role of Cassie. But, again, some people went from one direction, some people came from another direction. Oh, she's a great actor. I got to follow her on Insta. Oh, she's... There's the male gaze element. I get it. But again, I didn't want to rewatch those or review those because it's like a TV show can have a completely different angle for an actor. They can do a lot more with a character and actually change and be good and actually showcase themselves really well. And that was a show that was basically, let's go to all these people to showcase their range in the most dramatic way possible. Don't worry, I grew up watching Skins. This is nothing to me. But again, I talked about Zendaya in Euphoria when I did my video on her, and I thought she was great in that, and that's just because I just happened to watch the first season. I was like, yeah, I'll talk about Zendaya, why not? But yeah, Anyone But You is probably the more, again, famous one for her. The whole Sydney and Sydney campaign was a hell of a thing on my Instagram for a good amount of months. And I saw it in the cinemas with my partner New Year's Eve of last year as a Christmas gift for free tickets, and my god, I was very bored during that movie. And I'm a fan of rom-coms. I like rom-coms. I don't like the Netflix rom-coms. This felt like a Netflix rom-com, but it had elements where it's like, this feels like a more budget, more production, good actors. It's got a really good cast, except for Sydney Sweeney. Because she's really bad in that film. It's just that thing of, I was watching her, I'm like, man, I'm not convinced by her performance. Like, her chemistry with her ex-boyfriend in the movie is good, convincing, but her chemistry with Glenn Powell, not really. It's just two hot people. Like, okay, cool. Good for you. I like watching Glenn Powell as much as the next person. I've been watching his movies since, I don't know, prior to the pandemic, before he was well known. And he's good. I like him. He's better in a lot of other movies, but still. But yeah, it's just a movie that didn't impress me, and her performance especially was a huge letdown. Because I was going there being like, hey, let's actually see Sydney Sweeney in the movie. This would be fun. Turned out I was wrong. So yeah, she's gotten a lot of fans from it. It became a huge success, and good for them, good for the Australian economy for how big that movie was here. But also just good for them. Why not? If it brings back the romantic comedy genre in a big cinematic boom, great, But if it's more like that, where it's still just a Shakespeare adaptation, whatever. But of the Shakespeare adaptations, it's such a lesser one. There were better ones done in the late 90s than there were now. So it's it doesn't interest me that much. And also, I'm more of a When Harry Met Sally guy. That's my kind of rom-com. I don't really need Anyone But You. It's just, even its premise, which I was the most interested for, was only 20 minutes of the movie. So it's just it's a whole thing. It didn't interest me. It wasn't that funny also, which was just, again, I wasn't going into it romantic comedy, I'm a man. No, I was going into it really, really excited to watch it. I think really, really excited. Excited enough. I don't know. I didn't have any dismay. I was like, Glenn Powell, good. Sydney Sweeney, good. Rom-com, good. Set in Sydney. As a Melburnian, but I'll take it, whatever. Probably looks better than Melbourne does half the goddamn time anyway, at least in movies. So as an overall, what do I think of her performances? She's very lackluster. I'm very curious to see what she does in Barbarella, especially with Edgar Wright, which could be a style of a substance, could be a, do we over-sexualize her or not? It's part of the role, you'd kind of expect it. I mean, you look at Jane Fonda in the original, and you're like, holy shit. But also, she's kind of really badass. It's kind of surprising. The sex kind of just becomes a joke, which is the funniest part of the movie. Also, it's French. Her performances that have really surprised me was definitely Reality and that one scene in The Wrong Daughter. So for me, her best film and her worst film. But those are also because Reality, I think, of all of these, is the best film of all of these. I gave it my highest star rating. I gave it 4 out of 5, but like I gave it the highest of the rest of these. Whereas Nocturne and Madame Web and The Voyeurs, what did I give them? I wasn't very ho-hum. Nocturne I gave 2.5. Again, it's very middle of the road. It's fine. If you haven't seen basically any movie that is ripping off, then you'll be like, wow, that was crazy. So, great for tweens, but as someone who grew up with, like, Whiplash and Black Swan, and then realized that someone's just smooshed them together and made a bad version of both in the form of this film, then yeah, sure, whatever, 2.5 stars. The Wrong Daughter, classic, half a star for a 2018 movie, which is crazy again that she landed Euphoria the year after. I know there's also, like, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood and whatever, and she's just kind of just there. Not a noteworthy performance, but also she plays a part of a group of people because she's in the Manson cult. So it's like, she's not a highlighted character because she doesn't need to be. She's just there, and that's fine. It doesn't need to be any more than what it is. Immaculate, I gave 2 stars, so again, wasn't very impressed. Madame Web, I gave 1.5 stars, so somehow I gave that more than I did The Wrong Daughter, which is kind of crazy, but there was an enjoyment to Madame Web at least. It was bad, but it was like, it's stupid at least. I don't know, The Wrong Daughter is probably actually a very on-par movie, but it's a Lifetime movie, so it's just automatically going to suck a lot worse. And The Voyeurs, I gave 2.5 stars, and I believe Anyone But You, I gave 2 stars. So, yeah. Man, it's just, it's shocking the films that I've seen her in that I just did not like. I gave Anyone But You 2 stars. She's also on The Ward, but, I'm not really going to rewatch that for her, because as much as I think that film is okay, she's, like, in a flashback, so she's not really that important. So, yeah, there's also a bunch of other... She was in Stolen from the Suburbs. She was in a few other, like, Lifetime movies and whatever that I guess you could probably watch. There's a lot of Lifetime movies that she was a part of. But none of them, to me, are of interest to watch. Also, just availability-wise, so many of them were on Amazon Prime. It was just like, great, looked up her name, bam, can watch most of all of those. I watched all of them, except for Anyone But You again, because I'm not watching that film again. So, yeah. Again, The Voyeurs and Nocturne are the two where I think she's just kind of middle of the road, but they're also very middle of the road films. The rest, not very interesting. Immaculate, maybe her performance is the best part of the film. But the rest of the film lets down every essence of it, including the script and how interesting the film is at such an all-time low that her performance is buried under so many other bad qualities of the film. So, yeah, no matter how amazing or surprising or iconic the ending is for the minute population who actually thought that, I was like, I don't know, man, I saw The First Dome and that was a lot more impressive. So, yeah. Anyway, that's all. Of course, let me know your thoughts down below. What do you think of Sydney Sweeney, the actress? I think she's a great model. She's exceptionally photogenic. She's fun in the commercials that I've seen her on from her Instagram, because of course I follow her on Instagram. But it's just, I think she has potential. I think she has potential to be someone really, really interesting as an actor. As a producer, she's doing smart things. I'm very keen for the Barbarella film, mostly also because it's an Edgar Wright film, but I'm really interested to see what direction it goes and how she pulls it off. And yeah, I think she has potential. But again, because, and this is such an early slate of years, from 2018 to 2024, it's a 6-year slot, pandemic in between, and a writer strike. It's really just kind of messy in terms of what I actually think of her performances. And the fact that they're all so kind of low, just middle of the ground to low, I'm like, except for Reality, it's such an outlier that I'm like, I don't know, she might be like, again, Dakota Johnson, where it's like, she might be one of those actors who just needs a really good script and a really good director, and bam, shines. But the rest of the time, at least they're making money. I guess, sure. Anyway, thanks for watching. Let me know your thoughts down below, and I'll see you guys next time when I don't talk about actors and their performances, because this was really, really tiring to make, just because these movies were just so goddamn uninteresting and awful. So yeah. Bye!